Good morning and welcome to City Talk. It's a weekly radio program and podcast thanks to this radio station, and we also air it on our television station too. It's a program that we use to better educate our citizens about what's going on with city government. And today I'm really honored to have not only our mayor again, who's been on the program the last two times, Mayor Deaver, but also have Council Member District 5, Jim Holmes, who is a local banker. And joining him and the rest of us, we're going to make this a more beautiful thing because we finally get some class in this thing here. Sara Roberts. Sara Roberts is President and CEO of KSR. Is that correct? And you're also the President of the Waco Business League.
That's right.
We're going to be talking today about the financial aspect of the COVID-19 because I know a lot of people out there are very challenged and worried about their jobs, their businesses, and things like that. And we have, I think, some very good experts here that have been. And Mayor, go ahead and tell them how the committee that you've created kind of focuses on kind of what our topic is today.
Sure. Well, let me just talk a little bit about the 4 working teams that we put in place several weeks ago. I saw a need to get council members who are great leaders involved in specific areas of this COVID-19 response, and paired each of them with a subject matter expert from our community. And so, for instance, for the healthcare response, we have John Kennard co-chairing with Dr. Jackson Griggs, who is the Family Health Center CEO. For the social services and education response, we have Mayor Pro Tem Andrea Bearfield serving with Susie Painter-March, who is the CEO of Prosper Waco. For strategic communication, we have Councilmember Hector Sabito, stumbling over my words here, Councilmember Hector Sabito serving with Natalie Kalinsky, who is the communications person at the Waco Foundation. And which one am I leaving out? I'm leaving you all out. The fourth one, fourth one is business and individual economic recovery. And so I asked Councilmember Holmes to chair this. He is, as you mentioned, a local banker and has been in business for a long time. And Sara Roberts, who is one of our brightest stars in Waco in the business area. She is a consultant for a lot of economic development that happens here in town and around the state. As well as being president of the Business League. So we had a great report yesterday at the City Council from all 4 of those working teams. That video is available on the COVID Waco site. It's actually broken up into 4 different segments, one for each team. Really encourage everybody to go out and watch that. You'll get a much better feeling for the fact that Waco is we're not sitting on our hands waiting for this to be over. We are working hard to be sure Waco moves forward in a positive way. And Dylan Meek Councilmember Meek has been helping me coordinate all 4 of these. I intentionally left him off of the team so I would have somebody to turn to for special projects. And he has just been a great help and has done a good job of keeping these coordinated. And we'll be continuing that coordination as we go forward. But really glad to have Councilmember Holmes and Sara Roberts here today to talk about the great work their team has been doing.
Well, let's just go ahead and jump right into it because I know there's a lot of concerns of interest, and I know you all have probably fielded a lot of calls and inquiries about what's going on. And from a banking standpoint, I'm sure your bank's been people are asking about loans, and we've heard all about the forgivable loans, and we've had all about the incentives and things that the federal government's going to be putting down, trillions of dollars. It's all out there. Talk about how that's going to filter down and bring into the Waco economy. How are our citizens, who many of them are hurting, many of our businesses are hurting, and I've seen you tear up just like I'm getting ready to right now because it does hurt just deep down, and the decisions you and the council have had to make on closing businesses and things is not done lightly. And so talk to us a little bit about, I'm going to call you Jim because you're our friend.
Yes.
I like to be formal in at least that sense. Tell us a little bit from a banking standpoint and maybe from that area.
Sure, Larry. And again, thanks for having us on the show here today. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this initiative. As the mayor asked Sara and I to get involved in this initiative, the first thing we thought about are what are the problems out there, and we all kind of know what's going on with the COVID deal and the closing of the businesses and the shelter in place. And the next thing we did was identify teams, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit, that the mayor allowed us to get that team together. And after we got the team together, the solutions around that, which is what we're going to talk about here more today. And then the communication of those solutions and ideas is what we're going to really get down to the nitty gritty here in some of these programs. And just one by one, identifying the team, which the mayor was very gracious in getting Sara Roberts on this thing, who processes information and problems so quickly and efficiently. It's just amazing, and she's very plugged into the community. So we've had we've only been in place for 2 weeks, Sara. We've had a lot of meetings, a lot of calls, a lot of outreach, and a lot of information processing. And on our team, we were lucky enough to have the heads of all 3 Waco chambers, the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce, that's Matt Medders and Chris Collins, the Centex African American Chamber of Commerce, John Bible, the Centex Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Alfred Solano, and the Startup Waco group led by John Passavant, and our city liaison is Millette Harrison. Just have had a really good, and we've had 4 or 5 meetings already, sharing ideas on how to. Really, the third part is communicating those ideas, the outreach. We're trying to get to as many people as we can on what the problems are. Again, it's a two-way street. We're hearing what the problems are, and we're also talking about the ideas on solutions. And then again, the main thing is the communication, getting out there. And John and Matt and Chris and Alfred have just been amazing. I mean, ahead of the curve. Talk about well prepared, well informed, and open, and sharing all this information has just been fantastic. What I want to talk about a little bit then is as we were talking about solutions, the big federal program, $2 trillion SBA or federal program, which involved about $350 million in what they call the PPP. I think you referred to that, Paycheck or Payroll Protection Program, which goes through businesses for employees that's meant to cover several months worth of overhead or payroll. And that program, just as we were forming our group, was being dropped, if you will, just last Thursday and Friday. And that's, again, $350 billion that will funnel into Waco and Waco businesses and Waco business employees to carry those businesses over and to get those checks back into people's homes and into their checking accounts, ultimately, for the next couple months to tide us over.
Can you talk about the timing a little bit on that? I know some people are getting anxious to knowing when is it going to start showing up? We're all hearing about it. And what is the process? Is there a qualification part of it, or are they out of a job, and what is the trigger?
Right.
And Sara, feel free to jump in here at any point, because I don't want to get down into the track too much, because I think all 3 of us are associated with banks too, so we all kind of know a little bit about it, and enough to be dangerous here. But the program just really was finally approved last Friday, and was funded, not funded, but
The application
was rolled out by the SBA. Yeah.
rolled up by the SBA, where applications could be submitted into their portal. So there was a lot of backed up, kind of application talk on how we're going to do this. Are we going to use our notes? What are we going to do? But basically, businesses that have fewer than 500, you can apply up to $10 million. You go to your bank or go to an SBDC, talk to them to see if they can help. And it's run through the SBA program, and there's forms to fill out, and cash flow to figure out how much you're eligible for. It's roughly your overhead for a month times 2.5 is the rough out draft of it, and that's how much you can get. It gets a little more detailed, and banks and SBA will ask you to get the supporting information on all that too.
Yeah.
But basically that's it. And Sara, you want to carry it?
Sure.
here?
I mean, I think one of the most important things is that all of the chambers and the SBDC here in Startup Waco are super educated on the programs. And so if there are businesses out there that have questions and want help in applying, pick up the phone, shoot an email, and each of those organizations have people prepared to help them walk through that and make it as simple as possible. One of the important messages is that the application is not complicated. I mean, it's a 2 to 3 page application. You can submit the application before you have all of your financials and other things that would typically document the paperwork you're used to submitting when you go get something from a bank, and you can work through that after your SBA application is already in. One of the most important things about the PPP program is that it is forgivable, and one of the really early things that the Syntax African American and Syntax Hispanic Chamber did was a survey of local businesses, really focusing primarily on those most affected by the closure orders. Service businesses, food and beverage businesses, ones that have really had to retool to reach consumers. And as you would imagine, their two biggest concerns were, I can't reach my customers, so there's a significant drop in customer, and then the financial ramifications of how long you can sustain without that. When they heard from those businesses, one of the most important things they heard was early on, the very first program that dropped from the SBA was the EIDL loan, and it did not have as much of the forgiveness portion to it, and their concern was taking on more debt. The PPP program, because of its forgivable nature, really helps businesses get over that hurdle and have a solution that's not technically bringing more debt, as long as they're using the forgiveness really is based on making sure that businesses use it for what they are intended to use it for, which is payroll and rent and operating expenses. And as long as that's being done, then it is, in fact, almost, the forgiveness makes it become basically like a grant. And so the program gets to the heart of one of the biggest concerns that a lot of the businesses that were early surveyed and impacted by the decisions the difficult decisions that the city had to make, and really, is a good solution. So we're encouraging as many businesses as possible to get that paperwork in. And if they don't know how to do it, go to COVID Waco. There are links to each of the chambers. Get to a chamber, and they will help you out. I think all of them are very aggressively trying to keep businesses informed and supported. The SBDC has actually done videos. They're on all of the chamber websites, and they literally link online. You can watch on each page every form you fill out in the application. They walk you through, I don't know what this means, and it'll tell you where to get that information and how to fill it out. So it is I'm so proud of the working team here in Waco. I think everyone should be proud of the groups that support businesses here, because they have made it as user-friendly as possible. And April 3rd, which Jim mentioned last Friday, was the date that the application started rolling in. There's another big one coming up on April 10th for self-employed individuals, and really encourage anyone that is self-employed and doesn't know what to do to reach out to Startup Waco. They have retooled their website with a lot of resources specifically for the self-employed or kind of gig workers in our marketplace, to make sure that their businesses can thrive and be ready for recovery moving forward too.
Well, one of the two things that you really popped out in that communication real quick, and I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, good.
Mayor. You've mentioned banks and chambers. What a time for them both locally to step up, which they have done, and be part of the community even greater than they already have been. We always known the chambers are economically driven and things like that, but now they're coming to the rescue and providing those resources, and the banks are the same way. There's not a better time to get to know your banker than today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get out there and be familiar with them, and because they're wanting to work with you, because they're feeling the pain, because banks can't live without businesses and people.
Yeah.
And so I just want to compliment the banking community and the chamber community for both reaching out and doing things like you said, Sarah, just to be out there.
Yeah,
and don't be afraid to go there.
Yeah,
or don't be afraid to go to the bank.
Don't be afraid to
Some
call
people
your
are
bank.
afraid of the bank.
Yeah, your banker should be one of the first calls you make. I think a lot of our local banks, even before the SBA programs had officially been approved and adopted and the CARES Act actually went into place, were very aggressively reaching out to their customers, providing loan deferrals for a lot of businesses, whether, I think a lot of them said any loan, so it doesn't have to be, maybe it's your mortgage if you're a business, if you don't have a lot of business debt, but you are a small business and you've lost your income and you can't pay your personal debts. So a lot of the local banking community has been very proactive from the early part of this to make it possible for there to be some, the big word of liquidity, but it just means giving us all a little breathing room on our financial obligations so that we can keep expenses to a smaller number while there's less revenue coming in.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say I thank you for mentioning the hard work that banks are doing and chambers are doing. The work on this SBA loan for the banks that have jumped in and tried to do it has been excruciating. The SBA has been very unclear with banks about the process, and to be fair to them, they're not used to having to administer an emergency aid package like this. So everybody, I think, is doing their best. But I know, and my son Nick is a commercial loan officer, and he worked till 11 o'clock Saturday night and has been working late every night this week trying to help his customers get this stuff done. And I know that all the loan officers at the banks in town that are tackling this are doing that. So there is a little bit of a backlog on getting these loans funded, but the money will eventually roll out. And the one really important thing that they need to know, that all our listeners and viewers need to know, is this is a first come, first serve program. And so it's really important that people get with either their bank or the SBDC or one of our chambers, like Startup Waco, and get involved in this program now.
Right now.
And I'm so glad to hear that the SBDC has done the step-by-step videos. I didn't know that. That's just a great example of the way that people are stepping up and trying to make this accessible for everybody in our community. I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, the SBDC also has, if you read the Trib this morning, Tim Holtkamp, who's quoted in there and is the one making most of the tutorials on it, they've encouraged companies, you don't know what you're eligible for, call us. And if it's something that goes through a bank, we'll just get you ready to go to the bank, right? You think you have more than 500 employees and you're not going to qualify, call us. There are lots of, like all programs, there are lots of things and details that can make something fit that might not seem on the surface like it's a fit. And there is a program that's going directly through the SBA, which is the EIDL loan, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And one component that it has that came into effect or that was approved last Monday was the addition of a $10,000 advance, which is a grant. And so that one you apply directly through the SBA. Again, you can go to the city's COVID Waco site. You can go to the Greater Waco Chamber stood up a site called Waco Supporting Waco. And all of those resources and contacts are listed there. I think if you're a member of any of the chambers, you've gotten probably 25 or 30 emails telling you to reach out and get these things done. And if you're not a member of one of the chambers, it's still on their website and out there for you to be able to pull the resource. There are multiple ways, so if you're waiting for a PPP loan, which will, I think we heard is probably about a 3-week processing time for those. The EIDL loan has a faster advance. So if somebody's in a really critical position, it's a good timeline to go ahead and take advantage of all of the tools out there, and make sure that they're reaching out and getting that.
If you just joined us, we're visiting with Sara Roberts, who is the president of the Waco Business League, along with being an executive, the head of the CEO, I guess, of the KSR company. And you all do an amazing thing. And we're visiting also with Councilmember Jim Holmes of District 5, who's a local banker, as well as our mayor, Kyle Deaver. And I'm going to, Jim, I think you were about ready to say something a minute ago when I jumped in on you. And so,
really, just to echo what the mayor had said a little bit ago, that people are stepping up here, and it's impressive to see how the crisis or a pandemic came on us, pretty quickly. And again, I still think we have good. We're doing well with the social distancing, but as the chambers reacted to help folks out, and I just wanted to echo Kyle's observation, the mayor's observation on banks, because SBA, there's not a lot of SBA lending done here in Waco, and not very many of the local banks have participated historically. But when this program came out, I think people said, hey, it's the right thing to do. And banks did step up and say, hey, even though I'm not familiar with how this all works, I don't have a relationship with SBA in D.C., we are going to make this work for the customers and the citizens of Waco. So between the bank presidents, who good friends, all of them, and good and very good working relationships throughout the community here, we're lucky to have such a good group of community banks that they've all decided, let's help folks out. And then further, the SBDC, we can't understate how important that is. Tim Holtkamp, to if your particular financial relationship that you're working with says it's best to go to Tim Holtkamp, Tim is plugging people in all over the place. And
he's out at MCC, correct?
Correct, Larry. That's right. And he's got you can see his, as Sara said, his tutorial kind of online there on how to get through the forms. But in the overall COVID response here on business recovery, the fact that the PPP program and the EIDL program are kind of there. I just urge everybody, if you're needing some liquidity, check into those and make sure they fit or they don't fit. And if they don't fit, go to your banker, your financial advisor, or Tim at SBDC, and try to figure it out. Because I think if we can get through these next couple months, at least see the end of the tunnel. That was another thing that we in our discussions, in our outreach to different, and Sara and I have been calling different heads of the industries here in the community and trying to get the feedback from them. What are your problems? How can we help you with solutions? And one of the things we're getting, as long as we can just keep this structure together for 60, 90 days, we can see through this thing.
Well, I know there are so many challenges and things, but the good news is there are answers out there, and there's a lot of resources, and that's great because last week on this program, the mayor and I visited with Ron Kimmel from MHMR, talking about some of the stress levels, the anxiety that this whole COVID-19 is causing. And financial stress is, as you'll find like in most marriages, financial stress is one of the biggest causes of divorce and problems like that. So having the ability to turn to the various chambers, to the banks, to know there's help out there. And I'm just going to say that there's a helpline out there in the form of the web addresses we've talked about and all the different things. Have you run into anything, either as a banker or experiencing that, what some of the people are experiencing even when they go into this? What are some of the pitfalls, or what are some of the things that may be challenging that are scaring people, that we can help them realize everybody's kind of in the same boat? Because many times we all think about doing scary things, and once you've done it, you say, "Oh, I can do that again," Yeah. But
I think that one of the neat things that has been seeing so many organizations, whether it's local banks or the chambers and other entities locally that support businesses, help just learn something new, a new way of doing things, because I think that's the biggest challenge right now for everybody, whether it's the business that's got to figure out how to reach customers online, or how to deliver products that they used to have people come in and be able to just come into their shops, or operationalize new public health recommendations so that their workplace is safe and that their workers feel safe coming into work. All of those things are new things to be learned, and in the same way that the banks are stepping up and learning SBA lending that has never been a part of things, there are organizations out there trying to help businesses not be so daunted by the idea of doing something new that they just don't try, right? Because the best thing at the end of the day is that as many businesses as possible make it through this recovery, or in a position to rebound and grow as we come out of the COVID-19 impacts. And there are organizations out there trying to help with all of those solutions. We've talked a lot about the financial ones, but I would also say organizations like Creative Waco has stood up a website called makeitinwaco.com. It's an online platform. I think all of us have probably been at home and ordered something from Amazon and thought, gosh, I know that there's a local shop somewhere here selling that, and I would love to be able to buy from them. This is a way for local businesses to sell their products, sell their services online, and create an easy way for local people who want to shop local to support their neighbors and businesses in town. And that's just gone live, really trying to encourage businesses to go and find that. And in the same way that you can get support to figure out how to get the loans and the grants in to keep the doors open, to also find the support that's out there to reach your customers in a new way. And there's a similar thing the Waco Restaurant Association's done called Waco Delivers. And I think every time we talk to our working team a couple times a week, and every time we hear of a new program, the Greater Waco Chamber just launched a website edition on their Waco TX Jobs that list employers that are still hiring. I know there's going to be a big initiative on really helping employers know how to have safer workplaces in the midst of all of this. And so Startup Waco's brought on a public health experts. The Greater Waco Chamber is also doing some programming around that. So there are so many ways that, I think businesses could see. I think the biggest pitfall that you could see for a business is really just not knowing how to approach all of the changes coming at you so quickly. And we're lucky to have a lot of organizations stepping up and trying to help them navigate that.
So I think you can see why I wanted to put these working teams together, because the city and county governments can't solve all these problems, but we can leverage smart people, get them connected with the key partners in the community, and collaborate in a way that brings about this just unbelievable teamwork and creativity and ingenuity to solve these problems for people. And I'm just so proud of our community and the way that everybody is stepping up and responding to this, and also the way that they're trying to adhere to to stay-at-home orders and the social distancing. It's the only way we can fight this disease, and Wacoans are generally doing a great job of that, so I'm appreciative for that.
And you've said that many times, and I have too as well. And I think everybody realizes there is no cure, as you said in the press conference today. And by the way, we're recording this on a Wednesday. But there's no cure for this except doing what we individually can do and social distance from our friends that we would like to be with close all the time.
Right.
And so that, and then realizing that as a community, we do have the resources. And I'm going to go back to the chambers again one more time. It is, you don't have to be a big business to be a member of any of the chambers. Some people think the Chamber of Commerce is so focused on the 500 employees or bigger or whatever. But if you're a 5-person employee or even a 1-person, they will give you the resources, and they have the resources. And they are willing and wanting, I think, now to reach out now more than ever, because they know you are part of Waco, as we all are.
Right.
And I'll applaud, like you said, Mayor, too. I'm amazed at the way the citizens are adhering to the shelter-in-place rules and doing the best job we all can to fight this thing. And we will get through it, and hopefully we'll come through it with great shining colors and things. So we got a couple of minutes left. I want to make sure we've touched on anything that you guys want to make sure from a financial standpoint, or comforting those who are out there maybe struggling with depression and everything else, dealing with financial issues.
I'll just close my comments by saying that we all have families at home that we're sheltering in place, so to speak, and being there. But the small businesses of Waco are all each families too, and we know that in some cases we've had to break those up. And employers, as we talked to them for these last couple of weeks, they're concerned. They want to get their family back together too. So as these programs come in place, and hopefully we can get some money flowing from the federal government. Again, this is Waco tax dollars, both in the past and the future. I think our sons and grandsons will be paying for this in the next few years. But let's take advantage of it. These are federal dollars that will come to reach everybody. So we want to get those business families back together too. And I'll say the resilience that you see is just amazing. The restaurants that have had to close have gotten very creative about how to do takeout, carryout, delivery. Most businesses have some sort of pickup or delivery in their service. So it's I'm just amazed by the resilience of the Wacoans and the Waco businesses.
Absolutely. Sarah, do you have any final words you want to?
I would echo that. I think that we had the opportunity earlier, I guess last week, they all kind of run together in some ways, to speak with Dr. Ray Perryman, who's, we really respect his work in economics and policy, and just talking to him about what we can do as a community to make sure that recovery is as fast for us as anywhere else, and hopefully faster. And he really said 3 things. He said, first, you have to get the healthcare response correct. And he really applauded the difficult decisions that were made, that, at least at this point in time, it seems like we are seeing a trend in the right direction. And we also, and he basically encouraged as many businesses to get the information and get into these federal programs. And our groups are working hard to do that.
Mayor, I'm going to let you finish up because we have about 30 seconds left, but I want you to make the final word.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Larry. I'm so grateful to both of you for leading this response for economic recovery, and to all the people that are working so hard to help our businesses survive. Please know that we don't take this lightly when we make these orders and these decisions. We are very aware of the consequences, but we're going to get through this together.
Absolutely. Sara Roberts with the president of the Waco Business League and KSR Company, as well as Jim Holmes, our District 5 council member. Excellent. And a banker, and our Mayor Kyle Deaver. Amazing work. Thank you all so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Larry.
We hope you'll join us again next week for more information about the city of Waco on City Talk. This program is produced by the Municipal Information Department of the City of Waco and is provided as a public service by this station.